Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. Let's give it just a few seconds to let people dial in. I think we've got some good attendees today, so let's just give it a few seconds and then we'll crack on. It's a very big topic today, so lots to discuss. See how we're going. I think we're good to start. Right, good stuff. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We're going to be discussing today connecting systems. So how to integrate a charge management system into depot operations. My name's Steve Johnson. I'm a sales director here at Tenix, and we've got a 30-minute discussion on a topic that essentially decides whether a charging system works or not. And that topic is integration. We're going to try and cover the critical questions today. But for any other questions that you do have during the session, you can obviously reach out to myself or to Greg, but you can also, any questions that you have, technical or whatever they may be, please do email us in. There you go. Greg's pointing to the right space. ask@tenix.eu. We'd love to hear from you. So yeah, please do get in touch. So the reason we've put this session together is that integration and architecture decisions are often quite hard to undo. If a CMS is connected badly to scheduling, to depot systems, to your energy setup, we've seen that operators can deal with the consequences of that for a long time. You know, it could result in repeated manual interventions, charges that technically work but don't actually do what you're telling them to do. And a lot of these integration and architecture questions also tend to get addressed at commissioning rather than at procurement. And so at Tenix, we've been integrating CMS systems into depot operations, into complex depot operations since 2018. We're managing charging at over 100 depots across Europe, and that's around about 6,000 electric buses we're managing charging for, which brings us to our speaker for today's webinar, is Greg Masłowski. Greg's our CTO at Tenix. Greg is a software engineer and he's got 15 years experience in IT. And Greg and his team essentially own the development of our platform, which means Greg spent all of his time on exactly the questions we're going to cover today. Protocols, architecture, security, and essentially how to prevent things failing at 3 o'clock in the morning. Greg's also not normally in front of the camera, so we're lucky to have him with us here today. Good to have you, Greg.
Yes, hello everyone.
Great. Well, let's get straight into it. So, I think the first area we want to focus on today is essentially when a fleet operator is planning to deploy a charge management system and integrate it into their depot operations. What do you think, Greg, they should map out first before getting into the weeds of technical architecture? What do you think the most important areas are to map out?
Yeah, I think for every PTO owning a depot and kind of being in the public transport world, it is extremely important to kind of understand what are the needs that we expect from the CMS, right? So all the requirements that are related to different features. Do we want just charging, or do we need some sort of cost optimization, right? The question is, do we want to integrate the CMS and to make the charging slightly smarter by integrating it with any sort of scheduling systems, or maybe depot management systems, right? Then we need to make sure that those integrations are kind of being able to run. So starting with the need and being able to define the feature set of such a CMS would lead us to understand on what are the integration capabilities that are needed from the system itself. But that alone is kind of important, but that's not sufficient in a way, because on the other hand, we need to understand the depot infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure. I mean, the capacity of a depot, how much power can it deliver, what are the different tariffs, how much we will pay for the energy. Also, the infrastructure of the chargers, how they are being set up. That is extremely helpful when a project is being implemented in a depot, because that helps understanding in the proper setup of the CMS itself. And what I see kind of becomes also maybe not a challenge, but when that is being mapped out, it also helps is when all the stakeholders from the PTO world are being kind of named and provided. So there are different people who are related, who are responsible for operational readiness, but there are other people who are responsible for the operation technology, but also for the IT work, right? Software systems. If you are able to map those information out, then this becomes way easier to have a successful deployment of a charging management system. So even though it might sound easy that let's say we just have OCPP, let's just connect the chargers to any CMS. In reality, it's slightly more complex than it would sound at the beginning.
Okay, yeah, interesting. And actually, on you bring up OCPP. What do you think operators should be thinking about when it comes to OCPP compatibility on evaluating a CS? And is there actually anything beyond just OCPP compliance that matters to ensure interoperability?
Yeah, so basically OCPP compatibility, it is a tricky topic. So we learned that different vendors provide different kind of flavors of OCPP. They treat the non-specified parts of the protocol more freely. So it is really important to be able to find out a CMS who has a proven track record of being able to communicate and control really wide range of different vendors. And of course, right now we have two versions of OCPP on the market. We have 1.6, which is being de facto the standard for the current situation, but also the version 2, which is emerging quite fast, and we already have deliveries with those. And the version 2, of course, is the future. It brings a lot of important extensions to the older version, like security profiles, certificates management, standardized diagnostics, together with the possibility to get into the ISO 15118 log, which is the protocol between the charger and the vehicle itself. On top of that, it provides kind of better configuration management, which solves the problem of vendor-specific solutions that might have been visible in the 1.6 version.
Right.
And I think still on the OCPP topic, the reason for the slower adoption of the protocol, of the newer protocol, is basically the fact that a lot of the CMSs have been built around OCPP 1.6. That was kind of widely adopted, which means that a lot of the systems have been built for it, and they weren't built with proper abstractions in place. That slightly slows the possibility for the CMSs to evolve. On the other hand, we also have chargers. Chargers are kind of getting, older chargers, I mean, are kind of getting out of service layer agreements. Sometimes they don't have any firmware or patch updates, anything kind of ready for being able to have the OCPP2 in place. So all of that OCPP dichotomy in terms of versioning and legacy, that's what's really important when you consider a CMS for your depot. However, as you pointed slightly out, OCPP is just one of the protocols which enables the most important, the most crucial one, integration, which is really steering and controlling the chargers. Besides that, we have other protocols that need to be taken into account. So protocols for different scheduling systems, or DMS communication, VDV463, VDV261 for preconditioning. What do I know? OCPI for sharing your charging infrastructure to the public. So I think all of that is important.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think obviously being able to having confidence that you can control the charges properly via the right OCPP connection, but also what data is going to inform that charger control. So like you say, those integrations with fleet management, with scheduling systems, energy and grid systems potentially. What does a well-designed architecture look like then on that side of things? And are there any kind of key areas an operator should prioritize when designing that full depot architecture?
I think the best word that we are kind of looking for, which would describe this architecture, is flexibility. And such a system has to be flexible enough to be able to work with different needs and different sizes of fleet operators, right? So we have different sizes of PTOs. Some of them are using scheduling systems for being able to track down what are the vehicle tasks. And for that, your CMS would need to kind of adapt the plan for a vehicle based on a scheduling system integration. Different PTOs might use some sort of depot management system and expose already a VDV463 protocol that gives the charging objectives directly to the CMS system. Some other PTOs might be smaller and kind of more keen on not having a scheduling system, but operate maybe right now on Excel files. What do I know? So possibility to enter that information and to plan the charging information manually is also can become also critical. As I mentioned, flexibility is the word that we are looking for. And when we are talking about charging, really, then preconditioning is another part that a CMS would need to adapt to, right? So that you don't want your vehicle to use your traction battery in the winter to hit the passenger compartment. And since we are on the energy side, right, then the integration towards different energy systems is also kind of crucial. First of all, the important part is to understand the depot grid capacity. What is the limit, right? What's the power limit that the CMS need to operate on in particular depot? But maybe you would like to have kind of cost optimization in place. So you would need to understand the different tariffs or maybe electricity markets data that actually shapes the cost on an hourly or even 15-minute basis. Then integrations with DSO, distribution system operators, where there might be a demand to put information about the energy required for the next 24 hours, right? And good architecture of a CMS system is able to work with all those integrations and demands in a real-time way. So kind of from the integrations that I just mentioned, everything can change in live, in dynamic situations. So your vehicle might be reassigned, your vehicle might get just broken, and the CMS need to be able to adapt for such needs and for such changes. Another good point would be making sure that failure scenarios are being handled properly. So kind of the failure modes needs to be kind of first-class citizens. And I think all of the traits or the characteristics which I just mentioned, those are kind of making sure that the risk of vehicle not being ready for the operational work is being mitigated as much as possible.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's a really interesting point. And I guess now, the more we think about all these different systems that are at play dynamically and need to be dynamic and maintaining flexibility as well, I guess kind of the security question comes up, and the nature of obviously charging infrastructure sitting between operations technology and IT, chargers vehicles on one side and fleet systems and charging platforms on the other, to maintain a secure boundary and to prioritize security as well. What should operators be building into their network design?
Yeah, I'll kind of enter the cybersecurity threats world, and of course nobody would like to have an attacker kind of taking control over your chargers, or even kind of be able to fake your vehicle or steal your energy. And that's something that the CPOs and EMSPs, so charge point operators and e-mobility service providers, are also kind of really seeing in their world, because there are frauds in the public charging world. I think that the crucial and the most important parts are to have kind of reliable charger manufacturer, so that your charger is being patched, the firmware gets updates on a constant level. But then basically not only the charger manufacturer, also all the software system providers, scheduling systems, and the CMS as well. So we need to make sure that your CMS system provider keeps the system updated and patched against the newest vulnerabilities, right? How to make that happen in practice? Well, you need to search for companies that are being NIS2 compliant or ISO 27001 certified. That kind of brings the data security into place on paper. In reality, what is important is that your chargers network is segmented from your depot network, because OCPP is a charger to system protocol or kind of communication direction. You should set firewalls in front of that segmented network. On top of that, you should embrace the OCPP security profiles for connectivity, together with the security with enabling TLS. But not only TLS should be enabled between the vehicle and the charger, but also between the charger and the CMS, and then between the CMS and the other systems that the CMS is integrated in, right? That brings the boundary more secure. I think in software industry, more or less, security has been a topic for years, right? So on the cloud side, because we have kind of mixed scenarios, on-premise, cloud. On the cloud side, that is being heavily addressed. On-premise, there are solutions to be able to address that, but a good monitoring and logging systems of different situations is also crucial to be established.
Great. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a very big question. We could probably talk about that topic a lot more, but let's move on, because I think a lot of our attendees on the call today, as most fleet operators out there that are operating their electric fleet, will be thinking about scaling, and will be thinking about the next round of electric vehicles they will roll out, maybe the next batch of charging infrastructure they'll install, or potentially bringing second depots into the same operation. So I guess to make that scaling process straightforward for an operator, are there any particular areas or focal points that they should design into the system from the start, before scaling, that just helps that scaling process go better?
Yeah, I think I will break down this question kind of to two different parts. So the first one about depot scaling, which has kind of one set of characteristics needed, and then more of approaching multi-depot inside
Sure.
CMS, which is slightly more related to features of the CMS. So for scaling, basically, of the CMS system for one depot, I think software nowadays is being built with scalability in mind. So obviously, as a PTO, you would search for a CMS system or a vendor that actually provides a system that can handle your traffic. But to be honest, I'm in the software industry, as you mentioned, for 15 years. So most of the systems I have built, I've seen that the challenge is scalability is always something that is being thought of by the developers, by the people who are kind of responsible for the software to evolve. So that is being built in place. So I'm not really I'm not considering that a big challenge nowadays. However, when you want to scale your depot, you need to make sure that you are ready as it comes to grid capacity, for example, that the grid can handle the energy demand or the power demand that would be needed to scale, for example, from 20 to 100 chargers, which means there might be 100 vehicles being charged in the same time, which brings a big demand on energy. Additionally, of course, you need to be able to adapt your processes. Operating 100 electric vehicles compared to 20 is slightly different piece of problems because the vehicles need to be charged. On the other part of the question, the second one, when we are talking about scaling, for example, one operating contract to operate throughout multiple depots, then I think it's more related to the features of the whole CMS system. So such a system needs to be able to give you that operational control over your operational contract by giving you the possibility to have a look into the depot, multi-depot overview. That gives you the possibility to have charging plans which spans over multiple depots. So we can imagine that one vehicle is more or less related to one operational contract. It starts its day in depot A, then serves some tasks, then needs to be charged in depot B, serves some tasks, and then again goes back to depot A. And then we are actually looking at a situation where a charging plan needs to follow those different needs and those different chargers that are being actually located in different depots. So features built around multi-depotness, if I can kind of name it this way, and cross-depotness, it's actually important. That brings another traits or characteristics that are needed from such system, like how does it handle roles and permissions? So on one hand, people who are working on a depot, they need to have access, they need to have view to this depot only. But there are people who are thinking, or who are there are users, people who are operationally focused. They need to have an overview of the vehicle operations. So they need to be able to view those cross-depot related functionalities and information. So that things need to be built into the CMS system. That's why I'm kind of saying that this multi-depotness is more of a feature of a CMS system.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, yeah, having, especially when fleets are adding new depots, important to have all those depots pointing and directing into one managed operation. That I guess then is that single source of truth across all those depots. You've got the full view, but you know that the operation at one depot is taking into account what's happening elsewhere. And additionally, I guess to the fleet as well as it's the vehicles as they're en route between those depots. So I guess when you get to when a fleet gets to that level of maturity, or a fleet in a charging operation gets to that stage, what about if an operator already has then a legacy CMS in place? What challenges do you see there being on integrating a new CMS into a system that maybe already has one?
Well, it's a good point. So it might seem easy from start to just say, oh, let's just repoint the chargers to another OCPP endpoint, right? However, unfortunately, in reality, that doesn't always is the case. So if you have the possibility to remote repoint the chargers as the first point, that is actually quite easy to do, right? But sometimes the chargers are also legacy. So you would need to, maybe they don't have like a possibility to be remotely controlled. So sometimes you need to go around and repoint all the legacy chargers to the new system. But then we are also again kind of trying to in a problematic or kind of challenging situation, because we talked about the OCPP compatibility, right? And with legacy systems, might be the case that the chargers and the CMS systems that were controlling them, they were working together because the system was already adapted to those different flavors of OCPP. The new systems might not be. Probably in such a legacy world, nobody ever cared to notice that such adaptations were kind of in place. That might have also imposed some operational procedures that are in place on the depot, and something that just became a simple job of switching the CMS system can actually turn out into a one big project of implementing a new CMS into the depot. And I think that the challenge of legacy systems is not something to be taken lightly, and it's always good to have a partner that goes with you throughout the way. That is helping you with setting it up.
I think that as well brings us really to the last few minutes and the last point I wanted to ask about, which kind of loops us back as well to the start of the webinar and the point around making sure these integration and architecture questions are asked early on rather than later, where it can essentially be a more expensive ask. What should an operator that's thinking about working with a new CMS vendor and thinking about integrating a new CMS, what should they be asking? What are the key questions they need to ask that vendor to set the project up for success?
I think it boils down to basically everything that we just said today. On one hand, architecture-related topics. So you need a CMS with proven integrations with different systems, scheduling, ITCS integrations, but something that is nowadays already on paper, not in the roadmap. We are past that. That's something which is a must nowadays. You would need to search for someone who has OCPP kind of evidence that the CMS provider is able to control and actually address different vendors' difference as it comes to the OCPP protocol. The most obvious parts about the architecture being flexible and scalable enough so that it can grow. A good point is to have a CMS that has their own APIs available for you to build your own business intelligence if you need to, for example. How does the CMS handle different failures? All that we talked about. On the other side, that was just the architecture. On the other hand, features, right? So what does the CMS bring with its features, right? Does it solve your problems right now? Does it understand the PTO's challenges in the public transport, right? What is the roadmap of the CMS? How does the company see the future? How does the company see the future of the growth of the CMS? Whether energy management is in the roadmap, or whether V2G or any integrations with battery storage systems or photovoltaic systems is kind of in the roadmap, right? Not to mention the security, right? Which we also talked about, which all for me means that in the end, I think the PTOs aren't really in search for a CMS system solely. They should be actually searching a good partner who is able to provide the CMS system and grow the business together with them, more or less.
Yeah. Really, some really great points there. And I think I want to kind of circle back to the first one you made, though. Ask about proven integrations and ask that CMS what they've done and how they've actually managed that architecture development and where they've done that. I think that's the key point. I think as well, summarizing the whole session as well, a common thread is these questions are a lot better asked early on than after you commission a project. So I think that's a good way to wrap up the session. We're pretty much at time. It flew by. Thank you for your answers, Greg. It's been great to pick your brain on a few of the topics. I hope we'll see more of you in the future in front of the camera.
Thank you for the questions, though.
Yeah, no, not a problem. And thank you to everyone, to all the attendees today. If you do have any questions that have come to mind, however technical, whatever they may relate to, please do send in to ask@tenix.eu. You can obviously contact us directly as well, but we'd love to hear your questions, technical discussions at that email address. We do have all our recorded webinars available on our YouTube channel. On our resource library, we've got blogs and white papers there as well at Tenix, www.tenix.eu. This webinar has been recorded. It'll be added to that library soon. But I think that we're done for today. So thanks to all the attendees. Thank you again, Greg, and have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.